2,500 years ago, on the banks of the river Tiber in central Italy, a small cluster of huts stood on 7 hills. No one could have imagined that from those humble beginnings would rise the greatest empire the world had ever known. An empire that would shape the destiny of continents, languages, laws, architecture, religion, and even the way we think about power. This is the story of Rome, the city of legends and legions, of philosophers and emperors, of triumphs and tragedies. It is the story of how a single city grew to rule the known world, and how, in time, its own greatness became the seed of its destruction. Every civilization has a founding myth, a story that tells its people who they are. For Rome, that story begins with 2 brothers, Romulus and Remus. Born of the god Mars and a mortal priestess named Rhea Silvia, the twins were destined for greatness and danger. Their mother was forced to abandon them in the wild, where, according to legend, a she-wolf found and nursed them beneath a fig tree. Later, they were raised by a shepherd, grew into strong young men, and eventually decided to found a new city where they had been saved. But fate had a cruel twist. A quarrel arose between them over who would rule. In a moment of rage, Romulus struck down his brother Remus and became the first king of the new city. He named it Roma, after himself. Whether the story is truth or myth, the year 753 BCE marks the traditional founding of Rome. From these early beginnings, Rome would pass through 3 great ages: the kingdom, the republic, and the empire.
In its earliest form, Rome was ruled by kings, not tyrants, but warrior leaders who laid the foundation of Roman society. 7 kings ruled in total, according to tradition. The first, Romulus, organized the Roman army, divided the people into tribes, and established the Senate, an advisory council of elders that would outlast kings and emperors alike. His successors expanded the city, built temples, and encouraged trade. Among the later kings, Numa Pompilius was known for his wisdom and peace-loving reforms. He gave Rome its religious calendar and priestly institutions. Tullus Hostilius, on the other hand, was a man of war. He destroyed the nearby city of Alba Longa and doubled Rome's territory. Then came Tarquinius Priscus and Servius Tullius, who further developed the city's infrastructure, building the Great Cloaca Maxima, one of the world's first drainage systems, and laying out the early Forum, the center of Roman public life. But the last king, Tarquinius Superbus, was a different kind of ruler, proud, cruel, and hated. His arrogance and the infamous crime of his son against a noblewoman named Lucretia sparked a revolution. The people rose up, led by Lucius Junius Brutus, overthrew the monarchy and vowed never again to be ruled by a king. Thus, in 509 BCE was born the Roman Republic. The Republic was built on a radical idea that power should not belong to one man, but to the people. In Latin, res publica means the public thing, and it was governed by a complex system of checks and balances. Every year, the citizens elected 2 consuls to lead the state and the army. They were advised by the Senate, a council of aristocrats who wielded enormous influence. There were also assemblies of citizens who voted on laws and elected magistrates. Yet Rome was far from equal. The wealthy patricians dominated politics, while the plebeians, the common people, had little say. This led to centuries of social struggle, known as the conflict of the orders. Through strikes, protests, and even secessions, the plebeians forced reforms. They gained the right to elect their own representatives, the tribunes of the people, who could veto any unfair law. They also achieved the 12 Tables, Rome's first written laws, ensuring that justice could no longer be twisted by the powerful. Rome's political system was a remarkable balancing act, part democracy, part aristocracy, part dictatorship. It allowed for flexibility and adaptability, which would prove crucial as Rome expanded. In the centuries that followed, Rome grew from a local power into a dominant force in Italy. It fought fierce wars against neighboring peoples, the Etruscans, Sabines, Samnites, and Greeks of southern Italy. By 265 BCE, Rome controlled the entire peninsula, but success brought new enemies. Across the Mediterranean stood Carthage, a rich and powerful trading empire in North Africa, ruled by merchants and admirals. Their rivalry led to the Punic Wars, 3 massive conflicts that defined Rome's destiny. The First Punic War, 264 to 241 BCE, was fought for control of Sicily. Rome, a land power, learned to build fleets and eventually defeated Carthage at sea. The Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BCE, brought one of the greatest military geniuses in history, Hannibal Barca. Marching from Spain, Hannibal crossed the Alps with thousands of soldiers and elephants, a feat still legendary today. He crushed Roman armies at Trebia, Trasimene, and Cannae, where over 50,000 Romans died in a single day. Yet Rome refused to yield. They waged total war, attacking Carthaginian territories in Spain and Africa. Under Scipio Africanus, the Romans finally defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama. Carthage was humiliated, and Rome emerged as the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean.
In the Third Punic War, 149 to 146 BCE, Rome finished the job, destroying Carthage entirely, burning it to the ground, and sowing salt into its soil. At the same time, Roman legions marched east, conquering Greece, Macedonia, and parts of Asia Minor. The Republic now ruled from Spain to Syria. But as Rome's territory grew, so did its problems. Wealth poured into the city, gold, slaves, and grain from conquered lands, but it flowed into the hands of the few. The old small farmers who had once formed the backbone of the Republic were ruined, replaced by vast estates worked by slaves. The gap between rich and poor widened dangerously. Social unrest spread. 2 brothers, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, tried to redistribute land and bring reform, but the Senate saw them as threats. Both were murdered by mobs incited by their enemies. The age of idealism was over. Violence had entered Roman politics and would soon consume it. Generals began using their armies for personal power. Marius, a champion of the common people, reformed the army, making soldiers loyal to their commanders rather than the state. His rival Sulla seized Rome by force, became dictator, and unleashed bloody purges on his enemies. The Republic was dying, not from outside invasion, but from within. Then came Julius Caesar, a man whose name would become synonymous with empire. Born in 100 BCE to an old patrician family, Caesar was ambitious, charismatic, and fearless. He rose through the ranks of politics, formed a political alliance with Pompey the Great and Crassus, known as the First Triumvirate, and gained command of the legions in Gaul. For nearly a decade, Caesar waged war across what is now France, Belgium, and even Britain. His campaigns made him immensely wealthy and beloved by his soldiers. But back in Rome, the Senate grew fearful. They ordered him to disband his army and return as a private citizen. Instead, in 49 BCE, Caesar made a fateful decision. He crossed the Rubicon River with his troops, an act of rebellion, declaring, "The die is cast." Civil war erupted. Caesar's forces defeated Pompey, and in 46 BCE, he was declared dictator for life. Caesar introduced sweeping reforms, reorganizing the calendar into the Julian calendar, expanding citizenship, and centralizing power. He dreamed of transforming Rome into a more efficient, unified state, perhaps even an empire. But power breeds jealousy. On March 15, 44 BCE, the Ides of March, Caesar was stabbed to death in the Senate by a group of conspirators, among them Brutus and Cassius, men he trusted as friends. His death plunged Rome once again into chaos. In the power vacuum that followed, two men rose to prominence: Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, and Octavian, his adopted son and heir. Together with Lepidus, they formed the Second Triumvirate, hunted down Caesar's killers, and divided the empire among themselves. But ambition knows no friendship. Soon, Octavian and Antony turned on each other. Antony allied himself with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, and sought to build a new Eastern empire. Their love affair became both legend and scandal in Rome. In 31 BCE, Octavian's navy defeated Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium. The lovers fled to Egypt, where, facing defeat, they took their own lives. Octavian returned to Rome as the undisputed master of the world. In 27 BCE, he accepted the title Augustus, meaning the revered one, and became the first emperor of Rome. Though he maintained the illusion of the Republic, all real power lay in his hands. Thus began the Roman Empire, a new era of unity, stability, and unprecedented grandeur.
Under Augustus and his successors, Rome entered its golden age, known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For over 200 years, the empire flourished. Trade and culture spread from the deserts of Egypt to the forests of Germania, from the Atlantic coast of Spain to the Euphrates River. Roman engineers built roads, aqueducts, baths, and amphitheaters that still stand today. Cities were planned with forums, temples, and theaters. The Colosseum, Pantheon, and Roman roads remain symbols of their genius. Latin became the common tongue, and Roman law brought order to distant provinces. Emperors like Trajan expanded the empire to its greatest size, stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia. Hadrian built walls to secure its frontiers and promoted culture and art. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, ruled with wisdom, writing meditations that still inspire thinkers today. For a moment in history, it seemed Rome would last forever. But empires, like men, grow old. After Augustus Marcus Aurelius died in 180 CE, his son, Commodus, vain and cruel, plunged Rome into corruption. Assassinations, civil wars, and plagues followed. The once strong economy faltered, the army weakened, and barbarian tribes pressed against the borders. From 235 to 284 CE, Rome endured the crisis of the 3rd century, 50 years of chaos, with over 20 emperors rising and falling in quick succession. Reform came under Diocletian, who divided the empire into East and West for easier management. He also restructured the army and economy, temporarily restoring stability. Then came Constantine the Great, who reunited the empire and embraced a new faith, Christianity. He founded a new capital on the Bosporus, Constantinople, a new Rome that would outlive the old one for 1,000 years. But the western half could not be saved. Invasions by Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns ravaged its territories. In 410 CE, the Visigoths under Alaric sacked the city of Rome, the first time in 800 years that foreign soldiers marched its streets. The empire limped on for decades, weakened and divided. Finally, in 476 CE, the Germanic general Odoacer deposed the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus. The Western Roman Empire was dead. But in the East, the Byzantine Empire lived on, preserving Roman law, culture, and learning until 1453 CE, when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks. Though the empire fell, its spirit never did. Latin evolved into the Romance languages: Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian.
Roman law became the foundation of modern legal systems. Roman roads and aqueducts inspired future generations of engineers. Its art, architecture, and literature defined Western culture. The very word civilization carries the root civis, Latin for citizen. Even our political ideas, senates, republics, citizenship, public service, are echoes of ancient Rome. Rome shaped Christianity, the Renaissance, and the Enlightenment. It gave us words like justice, virtue, empire, and glory. And though its marble statues have cracked and its legions long vanished, the idea of Rome, the eternal city, endures. From a shepherd's hill to the throne of the world, Rome's journey spanned more than a millennium. It rose through courage, discipline, and vision, and fell through greed, corruption, and